Now, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is heading to the Middle East with fresh hopes of brokering a ceasefire deal as Israel's war in Gaza and its ongoing airstrikes in Lebanon fuel concerns the region could be on the brink of a much broader conflict. From Jerusalem, here's Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran.
It's the 11th time Antony Blinken has travelled to the Middle East since the war in Gaza began, after the October 7 attacks on Israel by Hamas. There had been hopes over the weekend that Israel's killing of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar in Gaza would be a turning point in this conflict, that it could give Israel an opportunity to change course, not only in Gaza, but also in Lebanon. However, the ongoing bombardment of the north of the territory and Israeli airstrikes in the Lebanese capital Beirut in recent days show that may have been an overly optimistic point of view, although it is likely something that Antony Blinken will be clinging to as he arrives for these talks. The streets of Beirut and beyond bear the hallmarks of an Israeli air campaign on Sunday night. The IDF targeting branches of a Hezbollah-linked bank, with Israel saying it needed to paralyse the militant group's financing. But targeting buildings in densely packed neighbourhoods, putting the lives of civilians at risk, has fuelled concerns among world leaders about Israel's actions in Lebanon and how and when a ceasefire deal could be reached. US negotiator Amos Hochstein holding talks in Beirut, warning it will take a lot of work and willingness to get everyone on the same page.
The mechanisms in place that will enable this conflict to not just be over today and start again next week or next month or next year, but rather will be over, so that everybody can go home and know that we are in a new era of prosperity.
And while those discussions were happening in Beirut, Hezbollah continued firing dozens of rockets into northern Israel. The deteriorating situation in the south, in Gaza, also remains a concern not only for the United States but a number of other countries around the world, particularly the ongoing bombardment of the north of Gaza, a siege which is stretching into its third week. Now, this is despite, as I mentioned earlier, the killing of Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas leader. He was killed late last week by the Israeli Defense Forces, and there was a hope that that could mean a ceasefire talks could be back on the agenda. A new leadership at the top of Hamas bringing a fresh position to any discussions with Israel. But Israel continues its offensive there and is saying that it will remain in Gaza for a long time to come. The hostages that Hamas continue to hold there, the main concern for Israel. We also know that the aid situation is of grave concern there too, with Israel dismissing allegations that it is blocking aid supplies into parts of Gaza, indeed showing media travelling in an organised press pack today that it was allowing aid trucks into Gaza. Whether or not it's actually getting to the places where it's needed most remains to be seen.